There'll be new guidance for universities in England issued by the Department for Education on what they should do in the case of a coronavirus outbreak. The Prime Minister said today that while opening universities again is critical for students' life chances, young people attending this year should be taking great care not to spread the virus. Our education correspondent Dan Johnson has been speaking to students and staff at Sheffield Hallam.
As the final pieces are put in place for socially distanced learning, students got a direct plea to do the right thing and stop the virus spreading. But more young people are already getting it, and some can see why.
I have friends from first year who are partying far too much, they're having whole house parties. It's obviously breaking the rules, it's spreading coronavirus, and it gives young people a bad name, but some people just simply don't care.
There is a reminder here, though, that the majority are responsible.
I'm a student, I could understand the guidelines, I could follow it, I know the seriousness. So all the students, I think they will all adhere to the guidelines.
Sheffield's one of those cities braced for thousands of young people arriving in the next couple of weeks.
So as people will be coming into the building, we'll walk through and we've got a temperature checking thermal imaging camera here. If people have a temperature over 37.8, we'd ask people to leave campus. At the entrance to every building, we will have the option where people can collect their face masks. So we're issuing face masks to students and to staff. Staff can also have a face visor if they wish that, if they're teaching in classrooms.
Controlling the virus in university buildings is one thing, but it's what happens beyond lectures that will determine the full impact of the mass migration about to unfold across the country.
We're confident that the overwhelming majority of students will behave sensibly, and where that doesn't happen, we'll be doing a lot of work with individual students, with groups of students, to ensure that they understand their responsibilities, that they act sensibly for themselves, and that they act sensibly for the community in which they're living.
Some universities are investing in their own testing capacity to make sure enough are quickly available. But they've also been told if there are outbreaks, students shouldn't be sent back to their hometowns because that would risk further spreading the virus. It's now down to students and how they behave, and how universities respond to the cases that will inevitably come with more young people on the move. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Sheffield.
Trials of a coronavirus vaccine being developed by the pharma giant AstraZeneca and Oxford University have been paused for the time being after one volunteer fell ill and was admitted to hospital. Research into coronavirus and possible treatments and vaccines is developing at tremendous speed, as our medical editor Fergus Walsh tells us now.
You both in at 1:45? Perfect.
More than 10,000 volunteers have been immunised in the UK as part of the Oxford coronavirus vaccine trial.
Sit relaxed.
Many of them are elderly. Some were due to receive a second booster dose this week, but that's been put on pause after a volunteer was admitted to hospital. Oxford University said it was a routine action which has to happen whenever there's a potentially unexplained illness in a study. So, for now, no one at any of the sites around the world, including South Africa, Brazil and the United States, can be immunised with the Oxford vaccine.
We need to make sure with these vaccines that they work well enough, and they are safe. And therefore, a pause, obviously, is not good. You'd rather not see any side effects, but inevitably you do see some. And it's sensible to look at that very seriously and understand what's going on.
So when will we have a vaccine? There are at least 32 coronavirus vaccines in clinical trials. They're recruiting 280,000 volunteers in 34 countries around the world. We might get early indications that one of them works towards the end of the year, but there are no guarantees. Meanwhile, 9 leading pharma companies have signed a pledge to put safety first and uphold scientific and ethical standards in the search for a vaccine. AstraZeneca, GSK, Pfizer and the others have said they will only apply for regulatory approval once all stages of the clinical trials are complete. Volunteers on the Oxford trial are still having blood tests and other routine exams. Vaccinations could restart within days, although the final decision rests with the medical regulators. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
Well, Hugh Pym is with me, our health editor, talking to me once again and just talking about the testing issues, Hugh. When we talk about ministers admitting that they've had problems with capacity and testing, and yet they are considering much more radical plans.
Yes, Hugh, what's become clear today is the Prime Minister has a strong belief that the best way forward in the months ahead to something closer to normality is mass population testing, whereby you'd go to your workplace or an entertainment venue and be tested, get a very quick result, and if you were negative, you could go about your everyday life. And leaked Whitehall documents obtained by the British Medical Journal suggest there's a target of 3 million tests a day by the end of December and maybe 10 million a day a few months after that, with an investment of tens of billions of pounds being contemplated. Remember, the current level is just 175,000 a day in comparison. Well, that's the goal. The reality, as we've been saying, for a certain number of people is a struggle to book a test online, waits to actually get a slot and then finding it some distance from home. Just when you need a testing system, as cases are increasing, you need to spot outbreaks, as winter's approaching, it appears that there is something which is not quite right with the system, and it does need to inspire public confidence.
Hugh, many thanks again. Hugh Pym there, our health editor.